Okay, apologies for the delay. Right, who's here? Let's have a look if anyone's here. It says there's nobody watching. Doesn't matter. I'm going to crack right on, and we'll leave it up so people can come in and watch on the replay. But for those of you that have stuck around and are here now, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Right, so the Melissa Casias case, we've been covering it lately. We've took a pause on finding any covering any more scientists or laboratory workers related to NASA, jet propulsion and anti-gravity, because we've been focusing on this case. Now, just say, like, Hopper Stoppers, hello, Claire Bear, hello, Night Nikki, hello, welcome everybody, a late one tonight, but you know, things come up and things have got to be fed, and it's just how it, at the moment in the summer, there's gonna be late streams. Apologies. Again, if you go to bed early, you can watch it the next day. So hello, Last Saxon, welcome everybody, and welcome to everybody watching on the replay. Big up the replay crew. Hit the like if you like this content, it does help, or the dislike if you don't. Now, hello Tamsin. Right guys, let me know how the audio is and then I'll get stuck right in, as long as the audio is okay. Right, let's get this up. You guys let me know whilst I get this. We're going to be watching and reviewing a video tonight. Hi Lee. We're going to be watching this video and I'm going to be reviewing it because it is extremely important, this update. Audio's good, says Last Saxon. Thank you very much. Nikki says audio is great. Now, the Melissa Casias case, if you haven't seen me cover this, all I can say is go back, guys. I think I'm going to do Melissa her own playlist. They're all in this scientist playlist, but this case, this is the only one of the missing scientists or lab workers, hi Claire Bear, that they found the body. So I'm going to give you an extremely brief overview. She goes missing last June, vanishes, lots of different stories about the circumstances that she went home because she forgot a work badge, and someone else said that she went home because she wanted to work in a different department that day, but then she just went home without telling anybody, and she took her daughter to lunch, which is really bizarre, and then she just vanished into thin air. Roll on 11 months. Last month in May, the end of May. Sorry, no, it's July now, isn't it? So the end of May. And they find her body sat propped up against a rock or a tree, we're not sure, with a gun next to it. And the body was, and I'm quoting, skeletized. So perfect skeleton. Now, if she had been there for 11 months, animals would have taken parts of, I know it sounds awful and it's really sad for the family to hear this, and hopefully they're not listening, but the animals would have been. This body was undisturbed. So roll on 6 weeks. Excuse me. Roll on 6 weeks from when Melissa was found. We have no cause of death still. But initial CT scan showed there was no projectile in the skull, which when they're already hinting that it's been Ua-iding, okay, hi Carlos, without any evidence that it is. So bizarre turn again, as you may know, because I've covered before, was the family hired an ex-homicide detective, now stroke private investigator, to investigate, and he said it was the ex-husband who also worked at the lab or works at the lab. Nobody knows what sorry, not the ex-husband, the current husband, but they were having difficulties, I'm told. Really bizarre, even though him and their daughter are now saying that she walked out of their lives, and her mom and her sister and aunt are all saying that the husband, bumped her off. It's got really nasty. There's allegations flying all over the place. It's all being played out on Facebook. The private investigators now got a restraining order against him from the husband for accusing him. And all the while, we don't know the exact cause of death. Why? I don't know. So that's the basics of it. Now, this is even weirder Because after her body was found, and they pretty much immediately said it was Melissa without doing any autopsy at that point, without a cause of death, 11-month-old body, how did they know it was Melissa so quickly? That's the first thing that doesn't make much sense. Number two, my other question, hang on, excuse me. Sorry about that. Got a bit of a cough still, not feeling too good. And number two, why haven't they released the autopsy? So when the family recently sent a team up to the mountain, right? This was only a week ago or so. So after they've taken Melissa's body, the police have declared the area where her body was found no longer a crime scene. They're basically saying there's no crime being committed and it's likely an ooer-eyed, right? So they said there's nothing to see here. Anyone can traipse there now. It's not a crime scene. Her family then sent in a specialist team. Hit the like, please, guys. It does help. You won't believe what they found. So let's get into this. We're going to be watching this video. I'm going to be linking it in. I'm going to be pausing it, obviously, to give my take because it is a review of this video by the Law and Crime Network.
There was blood on the clothing, apparently.
I certainly suspect that there's foul play in this case.
She was reportedly an administrative assistant at one of the most secretive labs in the country when she vanished one summer morning. Melissa Casias disappeared, apparently leaving behind some key belongings. One of them maybe was even tampered with. After her remains were just discovered, her family is now claiming they've uncovered even more shocking evidence that is changing everything. And I'm going to be breaking this down with the family's attorney and a reporter who broke this story, Lauren Conlon. We'll talk about it right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey, real quick before we jump into this. Look, America only turns 250 once. To celebrate this historic milestone, Chef IQ.
We don't care.
Thin air. And after her remains were found just last month, almost a year from when she disappeared. This is just when we thought we might be getting some answers. This case has taken yet another strange turn. Now, a hiker reportedly found Melissa's remains in May. And since then, we have all been waiting for the medical examiner to tell us what exactly happened to her. What was the cause of death? What was the manner of death? And now, what has just happened? New information. And this is all based on reporting from LA Magazine, okay? The Casias family has now apparently hired their own search team who headed back to that remote area where her remains were found. And according to their attorney, they discovered items that had never been mentioned before. Shredded pieces of paper.
Listen to this. Shredded. What are we lolling at, Lee? What have I done? Listen to this, folks. So the family have gone back where she was found, where they found additional bones. Whose bones? They still don't know, or they won't say, who the gun belongs to that they found with her. Shredded pieces of paper. There is no way on this planet that those shredded... Why would you shred a load of pieces of paper? Why would you factory reset your phone? And why would you take your thyroid medication and your toothbrush and your curling tongue if you're going to go and unalive yourself on a mountain? Makes no sense. And also, those shredded bits of paper, why didn't the police take them with them? Why did they declare the whole scene not a crime scene and let people traipse through, just like the Nicola Bulley case? That was never treated as a crime scene. Remember, she entered the water, quote, unquote. Makes no sense. I hope you're all okay. I hope you can hear me all right. For those of you that are going to miss this because it's late and a lot of you are in bed now, apologies. It'll be on for everyone to watch tomorrow or whenever you've got the time. So the police have said it's not a crime scene and they've found bits of paper. Why didn't the police take this in? And apparently it's got her writing on. Her own writing. It's so bizarre. The reason why I want to watch this video is Lauren Conlon comes in. Great. And then their lawyer, they've taken on a lawyer team. They've got the family, the mum, the maternal blood side, have taken on this law firm. They've sacked the detective, or they fell out with him. I don't know, but he's gone his own way because he had a restraining order against him for accusing the husband. But this lawyer is a guest on this show, and it's so interesting what he says. So let's get right into this, and let's have a listen what Lauren first of all has to say.
Hair, bones, and that's just a bit of what was reportedly uncovered. And this really stands out, according to the family's attorney, is that Melissa's sister reportedly recognized her handwriting in the shredded papers. What does the writing say? What does this all mean? How was this reported evidence not uncovered sooner? So there's a lot to get into, but I'm not going to be doing it alone. I got two very special guests joining me on this episode of Sidebar. I got Lauren Conlon, a contributor for Los Angeles Magazine. She's been covering this case from the very beginning. She's spoken with family. She's spoken with law enforcement. She has her sources. She's going to tell us what she's discovered. But we're also bringing on David Adams. So this is the attorney representing the family, the one who was instrumental in that search team going back into that forest. Now, you're going to remember that Melissa Casias was the 53-year-old wife, mother, reported administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, vanished in June of 2025. And the circumstances surrounding
Did you notice that? Reported administrative assistant. No one even knows. We had not any confirmation from the actual laboratory. You would think that her employer, hi Cosmic War Toad, I'm not going to go through it all again, right? Honestly, this case, I've just briefly covered it again. I can't keep repeating what's going on. If you've missed any of it, either rewind to the beginning, because I give a really brief overview, or watch back on the others. I will be putting them in a new playlist, because it's quite a complex case. So honestly, if you can pick it up really quickly if you just rewind this video, I think, because I gave a really quick overview. But he said reportedly worked there. Now, why haven't the employer where she worked, and apparently where her husband works, again, we don't know what he does there, he could be a scientist for all we know, why haven't they come out and give their condolences? You would think that your employer would put out a statement, wouldn't you? We're sorry to hear of the passing of this, employee. Nothing. Radio silence. And that happened a lot with these scientists. But when we've finished covering Melissa, we'll go back. We'll give you any updates on General McCasland, and there's more. There's another 2 or 3 linked to all these cases that have passed, and one of them I don't think anyone's even talking about. Blew my mind, honestly. Yeah, these cases are getting weirder and weirder. One of them was documented all this on Facebook, like Amy Eskridge was. Anyway, let's continue. And he also said, if I turn up dead, I didn't do it myself.
Appearance were strange from the very start, because according to NBC News, her husband, Mark, who also worked at the lab, told investigators that she dropped him off at work that day, that she said she was going to go to another location within the lab to complete some sort of task. She reportedly never came back. Instead, she reportedly returned home because she had forgotten her badge. Her daughter reportedly saw her that morning around 7:45 a.m. Her family goes to the house. They end up finding her belongings still there. So her purse, her keys, her identification, her cell phone was also reportedly left behind. And one of those phones had even been put in factory reset, wiped completely clean. So the question becomes, who reset the phone and why? That same afternoon, so this is June 26, 2025, a family acquaintance spotted Melissa walking eastbound on State Road 518. It's apparently a highway that runs through the mountains northeast of Taos. And that, as far as we know, was the last confirmed sighting of her. Apparently, this was also captured on security video, too, from a local business. You had New Mexico State Police PIO Sergeant Ricardo Bracetta told Dateline, quote, she is observed walking eastbound on NM 518 and wearing the clothing she was last reported wearing in the Taos Plaza, light color shirt, jeans, light tennis shoes. It is difficult to tell if she appears distressed. And then it was literally just nothing for nearly a year. There was no end.
That was a witness. I need to listen to that again.
Full Dateline, quote, she is observed walking eastbound on...
Right, so the sergeant said that she was observed walking eastbound on the NM 518, wearing the clothing she was last reported wearing in the Casias Plaza. That's where she took her daughter some food. It is difficult to tell if she feels distressed. What if she appears distressed? Now, apparently, I said this last time, but I'll just remind you, a witness seen her and reported her, and the police never acted upon that for 4 days because the husband said to the police, that can't be her because she left me. The husband and the daughter were telling the police that she walked away and left them. The police, instead of being proper police and doing some work, they just went along with that and said, right, okay, we believe the husband, we believe the daughter. Why is her daughter sticking up for the dad? I genuinely think something's happened with the dad, and the daughter knows and she's defending her dad. That is what I think's happened. Some of the stuff that I'll get into, I'll probably make a video actually, because I'm not going to have time today. The husband did a poem when she was missing, and he describes in the poem, just after she'd gone missing last year, where she was found. He talks about the fork. Which way do I go? Do I go left or do I go right? She was found in the middle of a fork where the road forks off, well, the path. 10 months before she was found, he'd written this poem. Explain that one. Something is really bizarre with the husband, and he's going around putting restraining orders out on anyone who questions him. Well, I'm sorry, but I am questioning him purely on what I have seen from him, because he's putting all this on Facebook. And the family, we think, listen to this, we think it's him, okay? This is really weird. There's a new page popped up called In Memory of Melissa Casias, right? The admin on that page, it's only a few days old, is Melissa herself. Somebody, it's got to be her husband, has logged into her personal Facebook and is admin on this group. So it looks like she's admin of her own group. How sick is that? Why has he got her login details? So she is posting in this remembrance group from her own account, and it's posting all these photos and videos and saying how in love they were to try and paint a picture that the husband loved her. What's that about? Propaganda 101, this. And photos don't tell the full story. People can smile for the camera. It doesn't mean she was happy with him. It is really sick, Nikki. It really is. So let's continue. I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's a niche subject. Not all of you will be interested in this, but I know that there are people that have been following it each episode, like Nikki has, and some others. I hope you're enjoying the updates. But obviously, if you're not into this, there'll be other topics coming up as well. I will be reviewing all these newly released UAP videos that we haven't even got into yet. I want to do a couple of shows on that because there's been load batches released since. So that's something else I will be covering on here as well. Plus there's quite a few videos to upload, quite a few clips of weird things like UFOs and stuff that I've had sent in. So there'll be a lot more content coming up on this channel. So here we go. I'm going to continue with this. But this is weird, honestly.
NM 518 and wearing the clothing she was last reported wearing in the Taos Plaza, light color shirt, jeans, light tennis shoes. It is difficult to tell if she appears distressed. And then it was literally just nothing for nearly a year. There was no answers. The family was searching. Volunteers jumped in to search. Law enforcement was on top of it. But then Melissa, what happened? Nowhere to be found. And throughout all of this, the family claims they're essentially fighting a narrative they don't agree with. In fact, this is what Melissa's niece, Jasmine McMillan, told LA Magazine. From day one, we've been fighting the idea that Melissa simply left on her own and abandoned her daughter. that couldn't be further from who she was. Melissa loved her daughter more than anything, and we believe that narrative may have prevented the investigation from receiving the urgency it deserved. And then May 28th of this year, a hiker was walking through a national forest when they discovered human remains about 6 miles from Melissa's home. And according to New Mexico State Police, the remains were found in an area in the Carson National Forest. This is just outside of Taos. And a handgun was also reportedly found near the remains, which were reportedly skeletonized. The Office of the Medical Examiner positively identified the remains as that of Melissa. And her family confirmed this in a heartbreaking post online, writing, "On Saturday, May 30th, we received the worst news any parent could ever hear. After 11 months of searching and holding on to hope, our beloved Melissa was found. Sadly, our worst nightmare had become a reality." But they also included a detail that was really interesting. This was from a post back on May 30th. Quote, "There will be more information to come, but what we can tell you now is she was located in an area previously searched. This is a lot to process. Our hearts are heavy, and we fully intend to continue to pursue answers for justice." Think about what that might mean, right? Either the initial search teams missed her, they didn't see it, they didn't see what was going on or what was there, or maybe she wasn't there when they were looking for her. But what are the police saying here? Hard to say. They're not saying much. Now, before I get into how we got to this reported uncovered evidence, remember the handgun that I mentioned found near her remains? Well, according to LA Magazine, a forensic CT scan of Melissa's skull found no projectiles, meaning no bullet found in her head, at least during this preliminary stage. LA Magazine's Lauren Conlon, who's been on this since the beginning, she took to X, shared correspondence that she said she had with New Mexico State Police in which they appear to confirm this. So maybe the scene could have pointed to something else, but with no bullet in the skull, the theory that Melissa took her own life seems like it needs to be examined closely, right? And now there's new evidence that the family apparently uncovered on their own. This is evidence that, according to their attorney, has yet to be included in the investigation. So how could this potentially complicate what is happening, complicate the much anticipated autopsy results? I want to get into it now, and I want to bring on somebody. I can't believe this is her first time on Sidebar. I take full blame for this, but my friend Lauren Conlon, podcaster.
Now, Lauren was literally having little digs at him a few weeks ago, which was quite interesting. She was basically saying that she was putting in FOIs, Freedom of Information requests, to the police who were not fulfilling them, but they were giving him stuff. And she was saying, why is it when I asked for like body cam footage of missing Neil McCasland and all that stuff, they said there wasn't any, or they just ignored me. And yet the body cam footage would appear on this channel. So she's basically saying, you know, the bigger channels are getting all the exclusives. And then she's gone on there. I find that quite interesting. She's definitely trying to push her. Can you blame her? Trying to push her channel by appearing on here. This will blow her up, this will, because this is a massive, massive channel. And this story is massive in America. This video's got like over 250,000 views in 3 days. This is really big over there. I don't think it's very big over here, but I'm finding it really, really interesting. Happy 4th, Lewis. We don't celebrate it here, obviously, because it's when you left us. It's when you became independent from the Britain. So it's not celebrated here. But you guys celebrate being free from us. If that makes any sense. But yeah, but so she's been quite negative about this guy, but now she's on here. There's been quite a few people having a go at her in a chat saying, you know, you're only coming out with stuff now that's been known ages. I think I really like her and she's really trying really hard, but some of the stuff that she's uncovered was already uncovered. But she's doing the rounds now on a lot of channels to try and get more seen. But she's very passionate, so I think we should all give her a chance. She will grow after this. She will grow. But she's very passionate and she doesn't want to let go. She wants justice, but she's very skeptical about any of these weird links. But I think she's starting to open her mind a little bit. That at first she was just shutting this story down as just an unaliving, a self-unaliving. But she's starting to question it now a little bit, I think. But I do think that the husband is involved, in my opinion, from what I have seen in the public domain. He works there, which makes me think that it's all linked. And something that nobody else has picked up on, no one knows where General McCasland went. Now, they both worked in the same lab at different points. He was over Wright-Patterson in Ohio, but he also had stuff to do with the Los Alamos lab. Now, his gun is missing along with him. The gun that was found next to Melissa is an unidentified handgun. What if that gun is the missing McCasland gun? And I've got a theory here, and you guys may laugh at this, right? You guys may laugh at this. I've got a theory. McCasland was have been her boss. What if he was involved in her death? Because she went missing in June 2025. He went missing in February 2026. What if he was involved in her death? What if that's his handgun? What if he was involved in her death, or the people that did it want to frame him? So have murdered him and put his handgun next to her body when they've recently dumped it where they have. Because I think it's been placed there, that body. There's no way a body's been sat there for 11 months in that heat, in that terrain with wolves and all sorts, and not been touched. I'm sorry, no way. And bits of paper fine with it still perfectly. You can read what? No, that wouldn't happen. What if he killed her, or they've set it up so that it looks like that McCasland killed her, and then they've bumped him off? Or what if he ordered the hit, and then they were worried that he's getting dementia, he's going to open his gob, and they've bumped him off? These two are linked, I believe. They're both in New Mexico. They both worked at the same lab, but she was just an admin assistant, allegedly just an admin assistant. But her husband, we don't know what he did. But just hold that thought. Nobody else is coming out with this. It's just a theory of mine. I'm going to do a bit of research, and I didn't meant to do it last time, find out what the gun was that was found next to her.
Porter, host of Pop Culture and True Crime. Again, LA Magazine contributor. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on. It's good to see you.
You too. I know. I can't believe.
Actually, I did ask last time and no one knows. So they've not released it. So we don't know the type of gun. We know that I think it was a 38 caliber. I think that General McCasland took with him. I'll double check. We don't know the type of gun that was left with Melissa. That's the air fryer you can hear.
I believe this is my first time, but I'm very excited.
I know, and you've been on this story from the very beginning, and I'll go into the backstory of it and what we know, but look, everybody's waiting to find out this information. I want to start with what everybody's been waiting to hear about. This potential new evidence. So your reporting in LA Magazine revealed this family hires essentially their own search team to return to this area where Melissa's remains were found. What exactly did they find?
Well, it's pretty concerning that this evidence was not recovered by the New Mexico State Police, specifically because additional bones were found, Jesse. I mean, they had dogs there as well. I was told by a family member, and they were sniffing out the bones like they were human remains. So there's that. There was clothing. They are going to test this clothing. There was blood on the clothing, apparently. I actually don't think I put that in my story. I think this is a new piece of information here, because I did speak to a family member after, and yeah, there was blood on the clothing. And then additionally, there was ripped up pieces of paper nearby. And Melissa's sister, they were kind of comparing the handwriting to some of Melissa's at home, or I think that her niece had mentioned Melissa had written her some cards or whatever, and they were like, this looks like Melissa's handwriting. So the search team obviously is very professional. They bagged up that evidence as they were supposed to, and they gave it to the lawyer who turned it over to the New Mexico State Police. So reportedly, or supposedly, I should say, the police are now including this evidence in their investigation with the OMI in determining the cause and manner of death. Because, I mean, we both know it should be included.
Okay, I'm made of questions here. I want to just take a step back.
Yeah.
The pieces of paper, do we know what they were? Like what the writing was? Are they a report? Were there a note? Like what, do we know anything about the pieces of paper?
No, they were shredded and they were ripped up. And Jesse, I have asked a lot of questions here. Like I followed up with the Casias family law firm, or the law firm they're using. It's Parnell and Adams, I believe. And I'm waiting to hear back because I want to know, how close was this to the tree and the coordinates, like where she was found? Are we talking yards, feet? What are we talking? Like, I mean, I want to know, was the clothing strewn about? I have a lot of questions about how this all, how this was all found. Of course, I want to see the blood on the clothing. I want to give it to our friend Joe Scott Morgan, who can, kind of determine a possible pattern. But I haven't heard back yet.
Any idea how law enforcement didn't find this stuff? Or I can imagine a couple scenarios. Either one, they didn't see it. Two, they didn't think it was relevant. Three, was it there after, Melissa was found? I mean, any idea about why it's only being discovered now, or potentially being discovered now?
Yeah, Jesse, we got the same questions here. So I reached out to the New Mexico State Police on Monday, and before this, I had been very impressed with their response time. They were quick. They were engaging with me. They were saying, it was the PIO I was talking to, and she's like, I'm getting all these answers for you. And this was about a week ago, when I first reported about there being no projectiles in her skull. But I saw all of this info and I was like, oh no, I got to know why they missed it.
I'm so confused, because how can they determine automatically that suicide if there was no projectile?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. How can they determine that this was done? Hello, Nathan Penny. How can they determine that this was a self-unaliving without any projectile, any bullet in the head? Which is how you would think that if you're propped up against a tree and you got a gun next to you, you would think that was how it was done. There was no bullet wound. And they still haven't released the cause of death. And they're telling Lauren, when she contacts them, that the reason why they've not released it is because they don't know. Why don't they know? It is as though there is some agency higher up than the medical office that is putting a stop on this. That is how it seems. Don't be surprised if Lauren ends up unaliving herself. Just keep an eye on that, because they don't like her asking all these questions, especially now she's going to get bigger now she's been on here.
Reportedly found in her head, unless there was a projectile that was found on the ground. Or I'm so confused, because we don't even know really the cause of death, right?
No, we don't. You're absolutely right. And keep in mind, they found Melissa's remains on the 28th. They confirmed it was her by the 30th through dental records. And then it wasn't until the 1st that they did the initial scan of her skull, and they determined there was no projectiles. Something was going on. I also spoke to an employee at Los Alamos. The whole Melissa forgot her badge, so she turned around and went home. This employee was like, I forgot my badge multiple times before. You just go to security and get a temporary badge. So something was going on that we are just not privy to. And what really sucks, Jesse, is that we can't ask Melissa.
No, we can't. So the evidence that was collected, which, by the way, also an orange peel, was like a slice of orange or something. Like, is it being tested? Is it being
orange peel? So you've got pieces of. So she was skeletonized, and what's happened, Nikki, is the lawyer have sent. And the family have hired a lawyer who have hired a team to go in to the area where her body was found at the end of May, that the police never treated as a crime scene, and it's just all open up, and found additional bones. Now, the dogs are trained to find human remains. So the dogs that they sent in, this is not the police. The police had already walked away and said there's no crime taken place. It's not a crime scene. The dogs found bones, and the dogs are trained to find human bones. Now, why haven't the police found this? The dogs found the clothing, the bits of paper, and an orange peel. Now, the police are taking it that seriously that the police have now taken these new additional items and put them as evidence. Why didn't they pick them up? Or were they not there when the police did their searches at the end of May? Or someone just put them there? And also, you got to wonder why the husband, his ex, who's got 2 kids with, apparently, her husband, her brother, his ex-brother-in-law works for the police, and he was ringing him that day that Melissa went missing. The call logs show that he called him and he answered the phone to him when he rang him back and ignored calls from the police. Was he ringing him to make sure that he ensured that this was not treated as anything other than Melissa walking away? Why is he so heavily involved? It stinks, this does. It absolutely stinks. And my worry is that she's not going to get any justice. Anyway, let's continue. Quite possibly last Saxon, I think, because they're all scientists or they're all working in the laboratory, that there's something that they know and it's being covered up. But we're going to finish this part and then we're going to listen to what the lawyer says, because it gets really interesting then.
Firm, we're sending this out to a lab. They're doing forensic DNA testing on it, fingerprints, anything like that?
I mean, I did not confirm that myself with the OMI, but per the law firm, they believe that this is all going into, the same evidence storage for testing with the gun, with her bones, etc. So one would hope and one would think, Jesse.
We don't know when the autopsy results are going to come out or be made public, or even the family would be alerted, right?
No. And that is one thing I did ask the law firm. I just said, do you have a timeline at all about the OMI results? And he said nothing, but he didn't say this specifically, but he kind of hinted it could be longer because they gave the police new evidence to take into consideration when doing this. Now,
something else to remember, the area where she was found, right? This this area. Is it frequented by a lot of people? Like, in other words, can people throw their trash out? If people are saying, well, you're making a connection maybe that all these things that were found, maybe they were thrown in after the fact. I mean, is it heavily populated? Do people throw garbage out there? Do they throw things there? What should we know about it?
This is why you're so good, Jesse. You ask all the right questions here, because now I'm like, and I also asked that. No, this was what I asked, because this hiker that found her, I said, is this specific area, these coordinates, is it heavily populated? No, it is very, very remote. I even got chills saying that. Very desolate, because Carson National Forest is millions of acres. It is like, I think I saw, when I was researching, it's like 2 or 3 times the state of Rhode Island, this national forest.
Wow.
And this specific area where she was found, it's remote. Let's just put it that way.
Do you know how to get there? Like, do you have to jump over anything? Do you have to take an ATV? Again, I don't know anything about it.
I mean, the terrain is rough, but you don't have to do any of that, to my knowledge. You can access this area through Highway 518, where Melissa was last seen walking. So this area can be accessed that way, but again, you got to go pretty far. It's not right off the highway by any means at all. So it's baffling.
Let's take another step back here. You've been following this from the beginning. What do you know about Melissa in general? Like, what do you know about her life, her activities, her hobbies? What do you even know about the work that she was doing?
Yeah. So I've actually admittedly changed my mind a lot about this case.
That's what I mean. She keeps changing her mind, which, kudos to her for admitting it, but it gets a bit frustrating when you keep changing your mind. I think she's obviously been reading the Facebook group, because the main Facebook group is run by her sister and her family, and it is damning on the husband. It really is damning. It's pretty shocking, this all being played out. But I genuinely believe that the reason why we're covering it on this channel is because all of this is linked to all these disclosure papers that are coming out, all these videos. We've had 3 drops now, and I've only covered the one. We say we are going to cover them all. It's a bit funny that all these scientists and people that worked in that lab and had these clearances are all going missing or turning up dead around the same time that they've been discussing disclosure and then putting these videos out. I think it's all linked. All of it is linked. I don't know what. I just know it was. But this laboratory where this lady worked and her husband works and all these other scientists work, they were involved in the Manhattan Project. This isn't just your average laboratory. This is a top secret laboratory. People, I don't know if people realise that, but they did, and they are still doing some really, really interesting projects there that are part of the Ministry of Defence, or the Ministry of War, as they call it now.
You know, I first saw a headline. I pulled back a few layers, Jesse, but you know, I very quickly dismissed it as, quote, not being part of the missing scientist case, let's say. Her husband had put out a statement on Facebook saying he believed she left on her own. And I kind of went with that for a minute, thinking, okay, I'm going to respect the husband. I'm going to respect the family.
I even wrote in her chat, no, you're wrong here. You're wrong just by dismissing it all. But she's obviously been reading the comments, because a lot of people have been saying the same, but she's done a U-turn. She had to make a video as well about it, explaining her U-turn.
But in the meantime, Melissa's mother, her father, her sister, her niece, they don't believe she left on her own. They don't think that there would be any reason in the world to make her leave her daughter, who was her best friend. Melissa loved being a mother. She was a wonderful mother. She was an administrative assistant at Los Alamos. And reportedly, she was having some issues at work. I don't know what those issues are, but something did result in her losing her clearance at one point. So I don't know if her family, her family is ruling.
So it resulted in her losing a clearance. She has seen something, in my opinion. And it could have been to do with the husband. We just don't know. But something has happened. She has seen something and they've removed her clearance. That is what I believe is going on here.
Nothing out, but I don't necessarily think that they think it's connected to classified information because she lost her clearance.
And do we know what the nature of that work was, what she did as administrative assistant?
I mean, I think it could be, you know, a range of things, I guess. She was responsible, you know, for setting up meetings, for, you know, documentation, getting that into the right hands. But her family, at least the family I spoke to, they didn't know too much about her day to day.
And what about her husband? What did he do there? What does he still work there? I don't know.
He does still work there. I don't know his particular role.
This Los Alamos laboratory, my understanding, it's a place that handles some of the most sensitive national security work, maybe in the world, designing weapons that are used in the U.S. nuclear arms stockpile. I think it was also the place where the first atomic bombs were developed. Am I right about this?
You are correct. Yeah. I mean, even going through the UFO files, you see Los Alamos mentioned a lot, because I would say in the 1940s, the 1950s, a lot of the sightings were coming from around the Los Alamos, Albuquerque, New Mexico area. And they weren't just being spotted by civilians. They were being spotted by people that worked at Los Alamos, that had, you know, a crazy background in this type of stuff, an incredible education. You know, they worked in the Air Force, they worked in the Department of Defense. So I would say, yeah, this is a very well-known, well-respected place that holds a lot of government secrets.
You go back to Mark for a minute, right? So there was an interesting thing that happened a couple of weeks ago where he reportedly filed this temporary restraining order against a private investigator named Thomas McNally, who apparently was working with the family. What's going on there?
So this is what I
Yes.
was talking about earlier. He was all over Facebook with his Emerald Eye investigations, saying that the husband was guilty. He wasn't even saying he thought it. He said he was. He was following him around and filming him in restaurants and stuff. It was really bizarre. And the husband has taken out a restraining order that runs till September. So this guy can't mention him or can't approach him. So the family, for whether it's he that did this or the family, but they've parted ways. This guy is no longer on the case. But he's so passionate. He's so passionate that the husband did this with the daughter's knowledge. It's just such a strange. The whole thing is really bizarre.
So Mark Casias was granted a TPO by a New Mexico judge against Thomas McNally for, I guess it was online harassment mainly from what I saw. This private investigator was retained by the Melissa's family, her mother, her sister, and her niece. And by the way, they are no longer working together. Actually, the PI decided that he just couldn't kind of move forward with the investigation as it was at the time. But yeah, he was accusing Mark Casias of a lot of things. He was putting out a lot of information on his Facebook page. Mark Casias said he was threatening him and his daughters from a previous marriage, threatening their life. When Mark had sent him a cease and desist, he apparently, went online and kind of just ramped things up a little bit. And then when it came time to, have this virtual hearing about a possible TPO, McNally didn't show up. Now, he says it's because he was improperly served or he never got it. But I think the judge saw that and he's like, you know what, I'll grant this until at least September. But, McNally wasn't necessarily barred from talking about the case. He was just barred from, pointing fingers at Mark. But needless to say, I don't think he'll be doing any additional work on it.
And just to be clear, as far as you know with the family, do they have a theory as to what happened to Melissa?
I mean, I think they're just trying to be really careful with everything. I think they are confused. And like I mentioned, they have been so frustrated and sad about having to defend Melissa against these she left on her own allegations just because they know her character and they just know that she wouldn't do that. So I think that,
this is what makes no sense. Her family, her mom and her sister all said there is no way that she would just leave like that. But her her other side is saying, no, she's gone by herself. But her mum says there's no way she would leave her daughter. But what I don't get is that how can her daughter, her own flesh and blood, go along with the dad? This is what I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, anyway, let's continue. Right, George wants to go out. Can you take George out, please? Right, let's continue. George
even had time to breathe. I will say that, in finding Melissa's remains with a handgun nearby, where everybody's brain, who possibly doesn't think about, the Los Alamos connection or anything else, their brain goes to suicide. And that's just devastating for the family because they know she wouldn't.
If you've watched Disclosure Day, don't tell me I've not watched it yet. I think I might watch it in a bit. Are we going to watch it in a bit? Yeah. Yeah, we're going to watch it. Once I've watched it, I've heard it's rubbish. Every single person who has watched it said it's rubbish. So I'm going to give it a go. and I'll do in a full review of it as well. I need to review Backrooms. I should be doing movie reviews over here, horror and sci-fi movies. I watch a lot of movies, a hell of a lot of movies, and a lot of TV shows. And I should be reviewing them, shouldn't I? Even if it's just a quick 5-minute review, I could do like one a week, if you'd like that, guys, because I watch a lot of movies. Anyway, once I've watched that, I will definitely be reviewing that. Even though if it's pants, I will say it's pants. If it's good, I'll say it's good. I can't show any clips of it. I could show stills of it. But yeah, I'm going to put it on soon, I think.
Do that. They know she wouldn't do that. They know that there's more to this story. So I just, for their sake, I hope that we can get some answers so they can, take the proper time to grieve.
And look, talking about answers, you've been covering the broader missing and dead scientist story, the theories that have been out there. Have you seen any connection between Melissa and any of the other individuals that we've been discussing here?
Well, I mean, look, Jesse, it's hard. It's hard to say yes and it's hard to say no because there's commonalities. I mean, the state of New Mexico itself, I'd say, is a big commonality here. And the fact that, there have been another employee specifically that went missing. He was retired from Los Alamos, but he went missing. Melissa missing. General Neil McCaslin. I mean, he had connections to the Department of Defense, of course. He worked there. He went missing in New Mexico. I mean, I could keep going. It's just like, I have a hard time here because I did hear from the New Mexico State Police last week, and this is pertaining to McCaslin. This was, I heard on Friday, they said to me, there is nothing currently to support General McCaslin being linked to any other missing scientist. And I was like, oh, you seem very sure about that. Have you spoken to other agencies? Have you, what's going on? And I asked specifically, have you spoken to agencies in Los Angeles, Los Alamos? All they said back was, yes, we've spoken to other agencies. And at the moment, we don't see any connections. At the moment, I don't know, but they won't get into it.
There was this statement, the quote, the New Mexico State Police is awaiting the Office of the Medical Investigator's official determination regarding the cause and manner of death before drawing any conclusions. This is referring to Melissa. This remains an active and ongoing investigation. The New Mexico State Police continue to pursue relevant investigative leads while also following the facts and evidence in the case. We, by the way, reached out to the police for additional comment. We're awaiting response at the time we're recording. Not surprised by that response, Lauren?
I mean, no, that response is super safe. It's very diplomatic. It's the response that one should give, I feel like, when we don't have answers. But I do believe, as I start to go through this police report, I do believe that there could have been a little more urgency at the beginning if family members, immediate family members, like Melissa's husband, maybe put a little more emphasis on find my wife. She's missing, not I think she went off on her own type of thing. I think that's, and even if you think that is fine. You have your reasons. That's fine. But if I'm law enforcement, I want to dig further. I want to know why, you know what I mean? I want to know every single avenue of this case. I want to explore everything. So I'm a little confused at that as well.
You're going to be on top of it. I want everybody to follow Lauren on this. Her reporting's excellent on every story that she covers, including, by the way, David. I don't even think we've had you on to talk about David, which we'll definitely do that too.
Yes.
But Lauren, you're the
David
best. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for shedding light on this story.
So I want to bring on David Adams. So David is the attorney that's representing the family.
So the thing is, just going to say about my tooth, I'm just in the chat, right? When I was told, just quickly, because I'm not very well, that I had an abscess, which I think I've got underneath my wisdom tooth, right? You can't see it at all. And when I went for the removal, they said, oh, they're going to take it out anyway. They said, no, it looks fine. I'm really poorly again. My jaw is so hot and I feel so ill and it's on fire. I'm getting really annoyed. That's why I'm probably sounding a bit crap. So I'm going to go back to dentist on Monday. How can they, right, the surgeon said the dentist was wrong. What sort of, and the dentist says the surgeon's wrong. One of them's wrong and one of them's right. So has anyone here ever had a wisdom tooth it looked healthy on the top? but the pain is underneath it and being in agony and it's hot and burning, and then had it out. Just putting that out there. I know it's got nothing to do with the story. I'm just feeling really, really, really crap. And just wondered. Anyway, I was just typing in the chat and I thought, instead of typing it in the chat, I'll just say it. So yeah, it's really getting me down now. I think they need to take this wisdom tooth out, even if they can't see anything. Hopefully when they get it out, they'll see whatever it is. Oh yeah, I meant to say as well, happy 4th of July again to all of our American friends, and I think Canadians as well celebrate it. We don't celebrate because you're celebrating getting away from us. So it's clearly not a celebration for England or Britain, but it's a celebration for you guys. So happy 4th of July. Yeah, I'm really fed up. Skinwalker Ranch is a really good one to cover. But yeah, I feel so unwell, Nikki. And the side of my throat where all this is burning. And I put some ice on my jaw earlier and the pain, it's not right. Anyway, I've got an appointment with the dentist for in a month's time. So I'm going to try and get an emergency. But I feel really, really rotten, guys. Which is why I'm probably sounding really, really low as well. It's a horrible feeling. So now we're going to listen to the lawyer. This is so interesting what the lawyer says. And he's going to tell us all about the team that have recently gone in weeks later. And the police have said there's nothing, no crime scene. And what they found. It's so bizarre.
In this, and has been instrumental as we're talking about this potential new evidence that was found at the scene. Thank you so much for taking the time. My first question is, just to be clear, who exactly retained you and for what purpose were you retained?
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for having me on the show and having the opportunity to talk about this important case. I was retained by the maternal side of the family, the parents of Melissa and the sister. And I've investigated a lot of prior murder cases, specifically missing murder Indigenous women cases in the past. And I'm a prior federal prosecutor that focused on just crimes against women as well in my past job. So oftentimes I present at conferences around the country. And in one situation, an investigator was at the conference and connected me with the family. And I learned pretty quickly that just based upon the things I'd seen in the investigation, that I could be helpful in trying to have some oversight on it and hopefully try to build some momentum to have the right things done since it was still an active investigation. Yes, I certainly, from my perspective and everything that I've seen, I certainly suspect that there's foul play in this case.
What's the pieces of evidence or the circumstances that stand out to you the most that would suggest that?
I think that given the nature of Melissa period, in terms of the day before she went missing was her 20th anniversary, 3 days prior was her daughter's high school graduation, and given how her family and community knew her, that this was something that would never be part of her life, where she would disappear or consider committing suicide. So those initial red flags, of course, were huge. How her phone was left behind, and both of the phones having all the information deleted certainly was also suspicious. Not taking any medications with her or anything like that, wherever she was going at the time. All the red flags were there in the beginning. That kind of combined with the initial red flags, and then finding her body and finding how remote she was, and how those that went up there would probably say it would be nearly impossible to go up there without having assistance or without having water or food to get you up there because of the terrain being so difficult and so remote. And then to have that terrain end up being federal land, is also unique in itself.
Is there any evidence that suggests her body was moved there?
Here we go.
In my opinion, yes, there is, and I'll go over that with you. I'm definitely very curious to see how the forensic anthropologists, and their findings from OMI assist in that as well. But just the fact that there was paper found in her vicinity that was either torn or shredded or cut, whatever might be the case, and to have it be as clear as it was 11 months after she went missing, given the fact that there's so much rain and snow in that area, it seems highly unlikely that paper would depict that writing so clearly after that long. And along with that, just finding, all the additional evidence that was found a week after the crime scene was closed and after a thorough sweep of that area was done. And so,
did you hear that, guys? The pieces of paper had writing on it. Was that coming up then? Was that flashing? Funny, because I had a flashing thing up saying your VPN is updating. I'm just going to play that bit again for those of you that might not have been paying attention. This really caught me. Why did the police not pick up these items? And he's the lawyer. He says there's evidence that Melissa's body was placed there. And why would these pieces of paper not have blown away in 11 months? And why did the police miss it? I'm just going to play that bit again, guys, because it's so intriguing.
It would be nearly impossible to go up there without having assistance or without having water. Initial red flags, of course.
How has she got up there on her own? This is a really, really high terrain area. Like, how would she have got there on her own? Where's the backpack that she was seen carrying? Where is it? Where's a curling tongue that she allegedly took with her? Where's a thyroid medication? Where's a toothbrush? Were they found? The police won't reveal any of this information. I genuinely think that she was placed there. And I think that somebody, for some reason, has put this other stuff there as well. But why didn't the police see it? Did the police purposely ignore it? Or was it only put there after the police found her body? This is so dodgy, this one. It's just an awful story. I'm just going to rewind it slightly because I want to listen to that bit again.
That would suggest that.
I think that given the nature of Melissa, period, in terms of the day before she went missing was her 20th anniversary. 3 days prior was her daughter's high school graduation. And given how her family and community knew her, that this was something that would never be part of her life, where she would disappear or consider committing suicide. So those initial red flags, of course, were huge. How her phone was left behind, and both of the phones having all the information deleted certainly was also suspicious. Not taking any medications with her or anything like that, wherever she was going at the time. All the red flags were there in the beginning. That kind of combined with the initial red flags, and then finding her body and finding how remote she was, and how those that went up there would probably say it would be nearly impossible to go up there without having assistance or without having water, food to get you up there because of the terrain being so difficult and so remote. And then to have that terrain end up being federal land, is also unique in itself.
Is there any evidence that suggests her body was moved there?
In my opinion, yes, there is, and I'll go over that with you. I'm definitely very curious to see how the forensic anthropologists, and their findings from OMI assist in that as well. But just the fact that there was paper found in her vicinity that was either torn or shredded or cut, whatever might be the case, and to have it be as clear as it was 11 months after she went missing, given the fact that there's so much rain and snow in that area, it seems highly unlikely that paper would depict that writing so clearly after that long.
Yeah, she took curling tongs with her. She took 3 months of her thyroid medication. Why would you do that? And she factory reset one of her phones. She had a work phone and a personal phone. No one knows which one. We were told they were both factory reset originally. Now they're saying that one of them was factory reset. Which one? Who factory reset a phone? I think she was going to meet someone that day. I think someone was blackmailing her, or she was blackmailing them because she'd seen something and that it caused her to lose her clearance at the lab. Why did she lose her clearance? There's so many questions with this case and so little answers. But you don't take your toothbrush, 3 months of thyroid medication, and a curling tongue if you're going to go in unalive yourself. No way. I think she was taken I think that she was told to meet someone somewhere and they've bumped her off. It's got the husband either is involved or knows, but some of these videos he's putting out are under her account because he's hacked into her account, pretending to be her when we know that she's deceased, and posting all these videos is really, really strange. I've just been onto the other group, the main group that's run by her actual maternal family, and they're all saying that this is really weird that the dad's doing this. They think he's involved and they're not shy about saying it either. Now, why hasn't he sued them? Why hasn't he put out a restraining order against them? If they're telling lies, why hasn't he put a restraining order out? The only reason why he put one out against that detective, the former detective, is because he was following him around. He was actually going to the restaurant and filming him when he was out with his new girlfriend. Yeah, he's got a new girlfriend. He was dating his new girlfriend allegedly a month after, publicly a month after his wife vanished. So every time he goes out for a meal with his new girlfriend, this detective has been following him and filming him. It's all over Facebook. So he took out a restraining order. Now, the mother and the sister are all saying that he killed his wife. Why hasn't he taken a restraining order against them? Or why isn't he suing them for defamation? Because it's got to be a lie. The fact that he's not doing anything tells me that it's not a lie. Just saying.
And along with that, just finding, all the additional evidence that was found a week after the crime scene was closed and after a thorough sweep of that area was done. And so all of that, every little clue you can find at a crime scene is super helpful and can be the key piece of evidence later that identifies somebody that may have been there. And so to have that forensically analyzed is so unbelievably important.
And to be clear, because I spoke to Lauren Conlon as well about this, that material was gathered by, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this by a team that you hired, an outside investigative team? It was collected and sent to you and you gave it off to law enforcement to be tested?
Yeah, so what happened is that law enforcement contacted the family after Melissa was found and provided the coordinates as to where she was and indicated that the crime scene was open and released and there was nothing else to be done. So the family, along with a Four Corners search and rescue team, went up to the area to just kind of see where she was last, not expecting really to find anything. And I think everybody was pretty blown away when they started finding what they found, including, bones, of course, that a dog, had at least gave indication that it could be human bones, based upon the training of the dog, but that'll be determined by the anthropologist. And the paper.
Exactly whose bones were they? What if, right, bear with me, what if these other bones were General McCasland's bones? No one's asking these questions. They have literally come out and said that General McCasland is not linked to anything related to Melissa or anybody else, right? It makes no sense whatsoever. Really strange.
For itself, some things that we identified as being possible biological material, blood in the ground, her clothing, seemingly that was also in shreds. There are some parts of the clothing that appeared to have possible blood in it as well. A shoestring up there. A wrapper is up there as well. What? And so every single thing that could put some type
of... A shoestring, a wrapper. What the hell? This is so insane.
Of DNA analysis and attached to somebody or something, I think is super, super important in cases like this when otherwise there isn't any other evidence.
Was there an orange peel or an orange or something like that?
Yeah, there was an orange peel, which was obviously also an initial red flag. And we later learned that law enforcement had indicated that came from somebody in their law enforcement team. Having been a prior prosecutor and having reviewed lots of different crime scenes, I I certainly don't want to have any type of contamination take place at a crime scene where anything is left nearby. My hope and expectation, just as the general public's expectation should be, is it's clean of any debris left behind by law enforcement, so it just doesn't cause any issues. And so at least we can say for certain that law enforcement would say that orange peel is theirs.
So this evidence is collected. You hand it over to law enforcement. What do they say about what they're going to do with it in terms of testing? And B, did they give an explanation about how any of this wasn't found earlier?
Yeah, good question. Initially, law enforcement response was that, wow, this is surprising because we think we've got 95% of all of Melissa's remains with us. And so it was surprising to see anything found up there because I understand that there was at least 7 people from the law enforcement team that had investigated this crime scene, which I think they would all attest to being super tired and worn out by the time they got there just because of the actual terrain to get there. But it's definitely concerning that they were a little nonchalant about all the belongings found up there, like it wasn't so significant. So, the way that I understand the analysis should be taking place is that some of those findings will be provided to the Office of the Medical Investigator, and some of those findings will remain with law enforcement for them to do another analysis. But most of it went to OMI. In fact, I had contacted the attorney for OMI just to make sure that there was a clear understanding that this was found and that they were going to be taking this in as evidence as well. So that did take place, and they did come and gather all of the evidence to take pictures of that evidence at the office.
Did they give you a time frame about when you might get answers back, when the family might get answers back, whether it's in terms of that testing or even the autopsy?
No, unfortunately, we have no idea on timing. Given prior experiences, we really should be seeing some initial reports and findings from OMI and law enforcement within the next 30 days, hopefully.
Talk to me about the report. They do this preliminary CT scan, and they don't find a projectile in Melissa's skull. I'm confused as to how that might be possible. And B, it seems that there was an immediate understanding or an immediate conclusion that she might have done something to herself. But I guess I'm confused how 2 things can be true at the same time. How can authorities determine that she might have done this to herself, if I'm understanding it correctly? And B, how is it possible there's no projectile found in her or bullet found in her skull based on a preliminary examination at this point?
Exactly.
Yeah, great question, Jesse. I think the initial side to it is just that I think there's a lack of compassion truly in how the investigation was conducted. And I think it's reflected throughout the investigation. Even you mentioned the gun, I would think that the forensic analysis of that firearm will also have some indication as to whether or not it had been outside for a very long time, because there will be some wear and tear, possible rust on the firearm if it had been sitting outside in those conditions for that long. The speculation that it could have been suicide, I think, is something that most people tend to do under circumstances where there hasn't been a lot done to determine whether or not there is any foul play. And so I certainly would never recommend that an unattended finding of a body, that suicide be the first conclusion. Not too surprising to me that the CT scan, which at this point, I just speculate on because I have not seen that report, so I can't say for certain if that is the case, but obviously there's been some findings released that indicate there is no indication that there's any gunshot wound to the head. And all that means to me is that there's a different cause of death that we should expect to see in the findings from OMI.
Do you and or the family have a theory as to who may potentially be responsible? You don't have to name names, but do you have a theory as to who maybe should be investigated, as to who might have done this, whether she had any enemies? I mean, again, if we're taking the premise that this was a homicide.
Yeah, in my mind, there's usually a checklist in place for these types of cases, and you should be going down that checklist with a fine-tooth comb to make sure you've covered every possible loose end or circumstantial evidence that could lend itself to a conclusion in the investigation. And from what the information that I've seen and have listened to, there are definitely individuals involved that I would talk to and try to get some answers to explain some things that have been suggested by folks that have called in a tip line. Our hope, of course, is that law enforcement does talk to those individuals so we have a clear understanding as to whether or not the information they can provide is accurate.
Do you know anything more about the work that she was doing?
I'm not exactly sure what she had access to. But nonetheless, given the fact that she was working at an area that has been of national attention in many different past occasions, you certainly would want to pay attention to it. And frankly, given the fact that she was found on federal land and had that job, I would have suspected and hoped that the FBI would have been involved at least.
Exactly. This guy, what he's saying here is just golden. She was found in a national park on federal land. Why aren't the FBI involved? Why is that? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like this total gatekeeping with the police. It's literally like somebody has gagged the police, has gagged the medical examiner. They're not allowed to release any details about this. But why? They're not giving us any explanation. And she could not have got there on her own. He's just said that. Why would you go to that place, unalive yourself with a gun next to you, with no gunshot, and then how is this orange peel and wrappers? It's like somebody has gone up there and trashed her memory whilst the body was there and just thrown all this stuff down. The police have ignored it. I think that from what I'm seeing and reading and hearing, the police seem to be complicit. Is this because his ex-brother-in-law works for them? Oh, apparently he stopped working for them last year after Melissa went missing as well. Why is that? He's listed as working there from 2023 to 2025. So why did he leave? Did he help cover all this up and then leave? Or did he get sacked for messing with evidence? Nobody knows. And this is America, where usually everything's out in the open. You can do an FOI and get pretty much, you can get anything. You can get people's addresses, where people work. In America, it's not like in the UK. You can usually get anything. You can get body cam footage or anything. Why are they shutting down this case? It makes no sense.
In some of the initial investigation, and to my understanding, they weren't involved in going to where she was found.
I think she was killed up there, Nikki, and dumped there.
And hasn't been doing a whole lot in this case. And I would have hoped that they would have been more involved given those factors.
Before I let you go, how's the family doing?
Didi, come here.
I think they are just beginning a whole new chapter of grief now that she has been found. It has taken that last hope that they had that maybe she would be out there and alive and that she would return home someday. Now I think the grief has turned into accountability and justice because of what they believe to be lots of red flags in this case as well. They are anxiously waiting some type of conclusion when it comes to the forensics of this case, to where they could really start healing, knowing that if there is somebody that's involved and that this was a homicide, that they're brought to justice in this case. And I think that will really open the doors for them to begin the healing journey. Otherwise, this has been an extremely emotionally exhausting time frame for the family.
Of course. I mean, understandably so. It's one thing to lose a family member, but now there'd be a magnifying glass put on it from the entire world. Listen, thank you so much for coming on, explaining a little bit more of the circumstances of this, what we should expect.
Great video. Great video. I'll drop the link for that in a moment as well. Just before we go, I do want to show you a couple of things from this Facebook page. Just bear with me a sec. So this Facebook page I'm going to show you is run by her, I think it's her sister and that side of the family. So this was posted on the 2nd, so just 2 days ago. And it says here, look, so law enforcement collect her remains and clears the scene and declares the area no longer part of the active investigation. Then Melissa's sister hires a search and rescue team and they find more evidence. So she's just confirming what we've just read. How horribly frustrating it is to deal with these law enforcement agencies who either are not appropriately trained or just don't care about Melissa's case. These agencies involved should be embarrassed of themselves. What agency was in charge of the crime scene where her remains were found? So, honestly, the stuff that's in here is gold. Some of the stuff that they covered. Now, this is what the family are doing. They get stickers, badges, justice for Melissa. They're really putting all the stops out. And this is interesting as well because he actually goes on there and covers the Anthony Chavez case. Now, this guy here worked at the same lab. We touched on him last time, but I think I'll do a separate one. They found out he was researching quantum physics. Same lab, disappeared, that's that video, into thin air. Thin air. Another one, vanished. No body. Oh, yeah, and the police have closed his account. His case. He went missing in October and they've shut his entire thing down. Completely shut down, saying there's no more searching. We've done our searching now. This guy just walked out of his house with a gun. Only a gun, again, just like McCaslan, left his wallet, didn't have a mobile phone apparently, left his wallet and his keys and his beloved car that he was so excited about just buying. Yeah, they've closed the case. Look at this, guys. This was on the 29th of June, 3 days after Melissa went missing. Look what they did. Okay, look what they did. Now, this is the daughter. They changed the locks on the house, knowing full well that the mother could come back. But did they know she weren't coming back? Look at this. Sierra is her daughter, who is standing by the dad. I also want to clarify concerns regarding the locks being changed at our home 3 days after the mum allegedly went missing, and they said that she just walked off. Locks were changed with my full knowledge, consent and authorization. It says the existing system was inadequate and did not provide reliable security. At the time, circumstances surrounding my mother's disappearance were unknown. As a precaution, we secured the residence. We also considered the possibility that she could return and access home using a spare key without our knowledge. Why would you do this? Why would you change the locks if your loved one goes missing? Additionally, camera surveillance was installed to provide notification in the event of her return. During this period, we all travelled between Teos and Albuquerque, and our home was a known location. I'm sorry, but look, someone's put here. Meanwhile, the Mondragons, that's her maternal family, her parents, didn't want to leave their home. Must let change the locks in case Melissa turned up. It's like they knew she weren't coming back. Yeah, she actually says, look, if Melissa actually got out or snuck away where the cameras wouldn't see her, what if she wanted to come back? Imagine the shock she would have felt knowing they changed the locks. Can you imagine that? They changed the locks, guys, because in my opinion, they knew she weren't coming back. It's bloody awful, this poor woman. Yeah, that's when Lauren does an apology for getting it all wrong. Yeah, this is the new group that I joined last night. It's really, really weird, right? Now, this is the poem that I was telling you about. So this Krista Misbach is his daughter from a previous relationship. I know you can't see this very well, but I can't really make it bigger. It won't go any bigger. I don't know why. If I try and make it bigger, it just gets smaller. See? Won't let me go any bigger. But she says on the 6th of July, just a week or so after Melissa went missing, I'm sharing these words on behalf of the author, Mark. So she confirms that this is Mark's poem. Now, it's very difficult to read because it is so small, but I'm just going to read some of it to you. He talks about the fork. Hang on, gosh, it's so small. Did you go right or did you go left? Where she was found was a fork in the road. Did you think of I can't read that, as you drove past? Is it the truckers? Were you out with archery friends? It's literally describing she was passed by some truckers, and she also was found in the middle of this like junction where there was a left and there was a right. He wrote this just after she'd gone missing. How did he know that she was going to be found there? Changing the locks. So there's even more. I'll be forever trying to get into all this stuff, but there's so much weirdness with this. There's loads and loads of recordings of 911 calls in here as well. I need to go through them all really, and try and just understand what the hell is going on. Yeah, there's a lot of recordings in here. So the initial 911 call is in here, for example. Yeah, I need to get in this properly and dig out a lot of the recordings. Right, I'm going to stop that there. Okay, now thank you. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Right, I'm going to go now. I'll probably be on tomorrow night. I'm not sure what channel yet. I'll see how I'm feeling. So I'm feeling a bit rotten still. What's that? Right, I should be on tomorrow night, but I'll confirm. I don't know what channel yet. I'll see. I might do a Curious News, or I might cover a little bit of the UFOs, or I might do a Disclosure Day review if I get to watch it all tonight. But either way, I will see you all very, very soon. Thanks for joining me. Thank you to our lovely members. Guys, and thank you to everyone who's been sending stuff for the wildlife as well. I'm going to pop the link into the wish list if anybody else wants to help. The thing that we're most desperate for right now is the hedgehog food. We buy kit and kibble. So massive thank you to those of you who have sent. We've had some worms come for them. We've had some rabbit food come. Thank you so much. But if you want to help out, there's the wish list there. The kit and kibble is the desperate thing because that's what the hedgehogs are getting through. And they're getting through a lot, a hell of a lot. So I want to say a massive thank you as well to everyone who's helping out the wildlife. Really, really appreciate you. You guys take care and I'll see you all tomorrow. But I don't know what channel yet, so just bear with me. Keep an eye on all three, because you never know what might pop up. Right, take care. Good night. God bless. Bye.